Well, in Demo 3, we're just going to look at text cell formatting. And we're going to add to the idea of column width, we're also going to add row height changes. So I am in A1, and just like in Word, I want to change A1 to be bold. I just B, italics. I can change the color of the font. Again, if you don't know what color it is, just wait a moment and it'll tell you accent 1 darker 25, and I want to change its size to say 18. Notice how now it really extends into that B cell. Now I can use my format painter just like I did in Word. I'm on A1. Notice I'll go over here to B1, nothing shows up. Even though there's letters there, B1 has to be the starting spot for this phrase. A1 is the starting spot. So I'm going to go up to Format Painter, click on it, go down to A3, click, and the format of A1 is now transferred to A3. So there's again several ways to select your cells. I can use the name box as I talked about in the previous demos. I can click and drag. I can even shift and use my arrow keys. So let's do the shift and arrows from A6 down to A11. Shift and down arrow. Once again, it's just a matter of it shows that I'm using one column and 6 rows up in the name box if you watch that. Bold, italics. I'm going to change the font style to something a little different. Let's pick Baskerville. Now notice I could have gone to Baskerville first and gone over here and done bold italics all in one shot, but I didn't do that. So I did the extra step. Now Fred, once again, is kind of overlapping or just barely touching the B cell, so I'm going to click and drag between A and B and just widen the column a little bit more so that the D of Fred shows up. Now if I had done that double click that I talked about to widen it, it would have gone all the way out here past the K of gradebook. So that definitely wasn't what I would want to do in this particular case. So anytime you have this kind of a situation that you need to widen, make sure you do so correctly. Another thing you can do is, particularly with titles like this up here, you can spread the title across the top. So I'm going to click and select from A1 all the way down to F1. Now I could just as easily include row 2 if I wanted to, but I'm just going to stay with row 1. So those 6 cells have been selected. And what I'm going to do now is up on the ribbon, I'm going to use merge. And so using the drop down, so if I click merge, it merges the cells and defaults into centering. So merge and center is the default situation when you click on merge. Sometimes these little boxes appear telling you what it is because you've moused over it, and it takes a little while for them to go away. So be patient with that. If I want to just merge across without centering, that's what it would do, merging the cells and unmerge the cells. I can do that as well. So that's how you can merge and center a title across several cells at one time. I'm going to give more height to this row or this title. So I'm going to, once again, just like I did with the columns, go between the rows and I'm going to click and drag, bring it down. Notice when I bring it down, by default it is on the bottom even though it's centered. So we have alignment buttons up here that we can play with to change. Right alignment moves it over there. Middle puts it in the middle of the cell, or align text top. Top, middle, bottom, left, center, right. So let's go center, let's go back to center and put it in the middle. So now it's fixed vertically and horizontally centered in this merged cell environment. Now I want to just one more thing for this title up here. I'm going to fill it. So over here with this paint can, it's the fill color for that cell, and I'll just put in some kind of light orange behind it. That's accent 6, lighter 60. So there we go. Click somewhere else to deactivate those 6 cells that in a sense have become one cell, looking at that particular situation. I'm going to show you something. Remember I talked about double clicking and it widens it? Let's change the names here. Let's change the names to a higher size. Let's say 16. So all these go out. Now watch what happens when I double click between those two columns. It's only working with those names. The gradebook, CIS 120L gradebook title is no longer affecting column A. Doesn't affect column A anymore. So we'll leave that as is. Next I want to select the column titles from B5 to F5, and I want to put an angled slant on those. I want to format those cells so that they angle. To change these titles of the columns to be angled, 45-degree angles, I'm going to go after. I go up to the Format menu and go to Cells. Notice the shortcut is the Apple I buttons. Now you get a lot of options here. Notice the pull down in the numbers group is right here. These are all the pull downs. So this is a good dialog box to know about. Alignment is where we're going to see this. So all I have to do is click on this button right here and it immediately will align 45 degrees. I can change the font and the font look here. I can put borders. We'll be coming back to this later. I can fill it with the fill color, foreground, background, and so on. So I'm going to hit OK because all I changed was the angle measurement. And notice the angle is now 45 degrees. And the row automatically widened to compensate for that. So I'm going to take those and center them. And notice it moves them into the center. Or I could use them, put them on the right over by where the words actually are. Now I'm going to do the same thing, not so much the same thing, but I'm going to write a line B4 through F4. So I'm going to type that in to my name box, B4 colon F4. Remember the colon means through. Hit my return and now those are highlighted and I will align those weak names and I will italicize those. Here in A5, now I'm going to move that name centered and centered. So horizontally and vertically, it's going to be centered in that box. Now I'm going to select my grades. Now I'm going to come back to these grades maybe often, do some changes, and I'm going to go up to the name box and I'm going to actually give this group from B6 down to F11 a name. So I'm going to say grades. Hit the enter key and that's the grade. So all I have to do now is if I'm somewhere else, just hit this down, hit grades, and it automatically selects the area that grades, the word grades, represent. So what have we looked at? We've looked at the ability to change our text into fonts that we are familiar with from Word. We looked at merging cells across a row. We looked at slanting words using the Format Cells menu. We looked at selecting a large group of cells which holds information that's relevant and giving it a name up in the name box.